September 22nd, 1942. The eastern bank of the Volga River, Stalingrad. The water is black with oil and blood. Vasily Grigorievich Zaitsev crouches in the bottom of a wooden ferryboat, knuckles white around the stock of his Mosin-Nagant rifle as German shells scream overhead and detonate in geysers of river water that rain down like iron hail. Around him, 200 men from the 1047th Rifle Regiment press themselves against the splintered gunnels, their faces gray in the pre-dawn darkness. Most are younger than Vasily's 27 years. Most won't see tomorrow. A Stuka dive bomber shrieks out of the smoke-choked sky, its inverted gull wings silhouetted against the orange glow of the burning city ahead. The boat's engine roars, trying to zigzag, but there's nowhere to hide on the open water. The bomb hits 30 meters to port, and the shockwave lifts the entire vessel, slamming Vasily against the soldier next to him, a kid from Kursk who's been vomiting since they left the East Bank. The kid's helmet clatters across the deck. He doesn't reach for it. His eyes are fixed on Stalingrad. What's left of Stalingrad? The city that stretches along the western shore isn't a city anymore. It's a vision of the apocalypse rendered in brick and flame. Entire city blocks have been hammered into skeletal ruins by weeks of Luftwaffe bombardment. Factory smokestacks stand like broken teeth against a sky that hasn't been blue since August. The Barricade gun factory, the Red October steel plant, the laser chemical works, all landmarks Vasily knows from the maps they studied during the brief crossing, are now just names attached to mountains of rubble where men kill each other over piles of stones. The ferry's prow scrapes against the concrete landing stage with a sound like a scream. An NKVD officer, blocky, red-faced, PPSH submachine gun held at the ready, is already shouting before the ramp drops. Out! Out! Move to the assembly point. Anyone who retreats will be shot. Not one step back. Vasily's boots hit the shore, and he's running before his brain catches up to his legs. This is training. This is instinct. This is the only way to survive the killing ground of the landing zone. Tracers from German MG-42 machine guns stitch red lines through the darkness, finding flesh. Men fall. Men scream. The kid from Kursk takes 3 steps onto Soviet soil and catches a burst across his chest that spins him like a puppet with cut strings. Vasily doesn't stop. His grandfather's voice echoes in his head, the old hunter from the Ural Mountains. In the forest, the motionless deer dies first. Move like water, Vasya. Flow around the danger. He flows between burning trucks, through a crater still warm from a shell that landed seconds before, into the shadow of a collapsed apartment building where other survivors are gathering like rats in a ruin. His lungs burn from the chemical-tainted air. His hands are shaking, but not from fear. From something else. Something colder and more useful. Focus. You? Shepherd boy. Vasily turns. A captain, gaunt, unshaven, eyes like chips of flint, is pointing at him, at his rifle. The Mosin-Nagant 9130, scoped, the metalwork worn smooth from use. It looks different from the standard issue rifles the others carry, the ones still wrapped in cosmoline grease. You know how to use that thing, or is it just for show? I know how to use it, comrade captain. Vasily's voice is steady despite the chaos, despite the screaming, despite the man on fire who runs past them and collapses in a twitching heap. You're with me, sniper section, Chief Master Sergeant Zaitsev. That's you now. Report to Lieutenant Volkov at the Lazar Works. Dismissed. Just like that, Vasily Zaitsev has a purpose in hell. The journey to the Lazar Chemical Works takes 3 hours and crosses a distance of 600 meters. In a normal world, it would be a 10-minute walk. But Stalingrad has inverted all laws of space and time. Every street is a shooting gallery. Every window conceals a German marksman. Every pile of rubble might hide a tank or collapse under your feet into a cellar full of corpses and rats the size of cats. Vasily moves from cover to cover, learning the rhythm of this new kind of warfare. He's hunted elk and wolf in the Urals since he was 12 years old, learning to read the forest, to become part of it, to disappear into landscape until the moment to strike. But the urban forest of Stalingrad is different, deadlier. The ruins create a vertical maze where death comes from above and below, as often as from straight ahead. He watches, he learns. A German sniper has a position in what used to be a grain elevator, 400 meters north. Vasily marks the location by the pattern of fire. 3 shots, long pause, 2 shots. Methodical, professional. He makes a mental note of the window, the angle, the timing. Not today, but soon. At the laser works, he finds Lieutenant Volkov in the basement of a destroyed office building, bent over a table covered in maps and aerial photographs. 5 other men are present, all holding scoped rifles, all studying Vasily with the cold assessment of predators, measuring a newcomer to the pack. Zaitsev, they tell me you're a hunter. Volkov doesn't look up from his maps. Yes, comrade lieutenant. Deer rabbit?
Wolves, elk, brown bear once when I was 15.
Now Volkov looks up. His eyes are the color of ice on the Volga in January. Congratulations. You've graduated to hunting Germans. See that factory? He points to a photograph of the Red October steel plant, or what's left of it. The massive industrial complex has been transformed into a fortress of twisted metal and scorched concrete. The fascists took the southern half yesterday. We hold the northern half. In between is what we're calling the tennis court, 300 meters of open ground where nothing survives longer than 30 seconds. The Germans send out reconnaissance patrols every morning at dawn. They're getting cocky. They think we're finished. Volkov's smile is thin and sharp as a razor. Your job is to teach them otherwise. 1 bullet, 1 German. Make every round count. We're rationed to 30 cartridges per day. 30 rounds. Vasily nods. In the Urals, his grandfather taught him to hunt with 5 bullets and return with 4. The best hunter needs only 1 shot. The rest are just noise. Questions? The rifle. One of the other snipers speaks up, a barrel-chested man with a Leningrad accent. Let's see your toy, shepherd boy. Vasily hands over his Mosin-Nagant. The man examines it, works the bolt, peers through the PU scope. His expression shifts from skepticism to grudging respect. Old, but well-maintained. The scope's properly zeroed. You do this yourself? Yes. What's your effective range? On game, 800 meters, wind permitting. On men? Vasily meets his eyes.
I haven't shot a man yet, comrade, but I don't imagine they're harder to hit than a running wolf at 400 meters in a snowstorm.
Someone laughs. The tension breaks slightly. All right, shepherd boy. Volkov cuts in. Tomorrow morning, you'll take position in the department store ruins overlooking the tennis court. Nikolai here will spot for you. He gestures to a young sergeant with intelligent eyes and a face full of shrapnel scars. You'll have from dawn until 800 hours. After that, the Germans bring up artillery and flatten anything that looks suspicious. Show me you can kill, Zaitsev, and you'll get more ammunition and better positions. And if I can't? Volkov's smile is gone. Then you'll get a regular rifle and join the storm groups doing building-to-building clearance. Life expectancy, 24 hours. Choose to be useful, comrade. The night passes in fragments of fitful sleep, interrupted by artillery barrages and the distant screams of wounded men calling for medics who will never come. Vasily lies in his designated corner of the basement, his rifle beside him, and thinks about the morning, about the men he will kill. He's taken life before. Animals for food, for survival, for necessity. But this is different. Or is it? The Germans in Stalingrad aren't here to survive. They're here to kill, to conquer, to destroy. They've reduced a city of 400,000 souls to burning rubble. They've machine-gunned civilians on the riverbank. They've turned the Volga into a graveyard. His grandfather's voice again. The wolf that enters the village has chosen its own death, Vasya. You don't hesitate. You don't give it a sporting chance. You kill it before it kills you. At 0530 hours, Vasily and Nikolai move into position. The department store, or the crater where a department store used to stand, offers a commanding view of the tennis court. 3 floors have collapsed into the basement, creating a chaos of broken concrete and twisted rebar that provides perfect concealment. Nikolai finds a position 10 meters to Vasily's left, binoculars ready. Vasily settles into his hide. He's brought pieces of brick and shattered pipe to build a crude rest for his rifle, making sure the barrel doesn't protrude beyond the rubble line. He arranges debris in front of his position to create shadows, breaking up his silhouette. His breathing slows. His heartbeat steadies. This is the moment before the hunt, when the hunter becomes part of the landscape. The sun rises over Stalingrad like a blood-red coin pulled from the ashes of the world. 0615 hours. Movement on the German side. 4 men, Nikolai whispers. Looks like a reconnaissance patrol. 240 meters, moving left to right across your field of view. They're using the shell craters for cover. Vasily finds them in his scope. 4 German soldiers in field gray uniforms, helmets low, rifles held ready. They're advancing in textbook fashion. 2 men move while 2 provide cover. Professional, experienced. He selects his target, the 3rd man in line, a corporal by his insignia, carrying an MP-40 submachine gun. The man pauses behind a crater rim, scanning the Soviet positions with binoculars. Vasily exhales halfway and holds. His finger takes up the slack on the trigger. The Mosin-Nagant's trigger pull is heavy, about 4 kilograms, but he's fired this rifle 10,000 times. He knows exactly where it breaks. The corporal lowers his binoculars. Vasily fires. The rifle's recoport thunders in the confined space. The 7.62 by 54 millimeter round crosses 240 meters in a quarter second and strikes the German corporal in the center of his chest, punching through his sternum and exploding his heart. The man drops like a stone, dead before his brain can register the impact. The other 3 Germans scatter, diving for cover. One of them is shouting, probably calling for support. Good shot, Nikolai says calmly. Adjust 2 clicks right, 1 up. Second target at 260 meters, behind the rusted tank chassis. Vasily makes the adjustment, works the bolt. A fresh round chambers with a smooth metallic click. He finds the German soldier, young, frightened, peering around the edge of the burned-out tank. The man thinks he's safe. He's wrong. Second shot. The bullet catches the German in the throat, severing his carotid artery. He goes down, clawing at his neck, drowning in his own blood. The remaining 2 Germans are running now, abandoning all tactical discipline in their panic to reach their lines. It's a mistake. Vasily tracks the nearest one, leads him by half a meter, and fires. The round hits the runner in the lower back, shattering his spine. He falls and doesn't move. The 4th soldier makes it 20 more meters before Vasily's 4th bullet finds him. 4 shots, 4 Germans. Silence settles over the tennis court like falling snow. Nikolai is grinning. Welcome to Stalingrad, shepherd boy. I think you'll fit right in. The days blur together into a rhythm of kill and survive and kill. Vasily Zaitsev becomes a ghost in the ruins of Stalingrad, a phantom that exists in the narrow space between dawn and full daylight, in the gaps between artillery barrages, in the moment of stillness before the trigger breaks. By the end of the first week, he has 17 confirmed kills. By the end of the second, 32. The Germans begin to fear the ruins near the Red October plant, where men die from bullets that seem to come from nowhere. Lieutenant Volkov gives him more ammunition, better positions. A second spotter, a grizzled veteran named Kulikov, who claims to have been a teacher before the war, though Vasily suspects he was something else entirely. Kulikov moves through the rubble like smoke, always knowing where the Germans will appear before they appear, always finding the perfect hide, the perfect angle. You're good, Zaitsev, Kulikov tells him on the morning of October 3rd as they settle into a new position in the skeletal remains of a brick factory. But good gets you killed in Stalingrad if you become predictable. The Germans aren't stupid. They're starting to organize counter-sniper operations. You've noticed the patrols have changed their patterns. Vasily has noticed. The Germans now move in larger groups, use more smoke grenades, advance in unpredictable rushes instead of textbook formations. Someone on their side is studying the kills, analyzing the patterns, adapting. They're bringing in their own snipers, Kulikov continues, professionals from their military schools, men who've hunted in the Alps on the Eastern Front, in Norway. They're coming for you specifically, Vasily. You've become famous. Famous? Vasily works the action on his rifle, checking for dirt in the bolt mechanism. I'm just doing my job. Your job is now propaganda. Kulikov pulls out a crumpled copy of Red Star, the army newspaper. There, on the front page, is Vasily's photograph, looking younger than his 27 years, squinting slightly in the camera flash, above a headline that reads, "The Hare of Stalingrad hunts the fascist beasts." Vasily stares at the paper. Zaitsev means hare in Russian. They made a fucking joke out of my name? They made you a hero of the Soviet Union. There's a difference. Kulikov's voice is dry. The commissars love you. You're proof that Soviet man, armed with nothing but courage and a rifle, can defeat the technologically superior fascist. Never mind that you grew up hunting in the Urals and can probably outshoot 99% of the Red Army. You're the everyman sniper now, the shepherd boy who became death incarnate. I hate it. Get used to it. By tomorrow, every German sniper in Stalingrad will have your description. They'll be hunting you the way you hunt them. And one of them, Kulikov's voice drops lower, one of them is very, very good. The name reaches Vasily 3 days later, whispered among the sniper sections like a curse. Heinz Thorvald. Or maybe it's Erwin König. Or Hans Klein. The stories contradict each other, but the details remain consistent. A German master sniper, director of the Wehrmacht Sniper School in Zossen, holder of the Knight's Cross, credited with over 400 kills on the Eastern Front. Sent to Stalingrad specifically to kill Vasily Zaitsev and restore German morale. Thorvald. The name feels strange in Vasily's mouth as he lies in his hide on the morning of October 8th, watching the ruins of a tractor factory through his scope. Do you believe he exists, Nikolai? His spotter, Nikolai has become his primary partner, Kulikov having moved to train new snipers, considers the question while scanning the German positions through binoculars. Does it matter? Real or propaganda, if you believe there's a master hunter coming for you, you stay sharp. You don't get lazy. In Stalingrad, lazy equals dead. He pauses. Movement. 300 meters, second floor of the machine shop. Window with the blue frame. Vasily swings his rifle toward the indicated position. For a moment, he sees nothing but darkness and rubble. Then, there, a flicker of movement. The barest edge of a helmet, visible for perhaps half a second before disappearing. Amateur, Vasily mutters, but something feels wrong. The movement was too obvious, too deliberate, like bait. Don't take the shot, he tells Nikolai. Watch the flanking positions. If that's a decoy... The bullet hits the rubble 6 inches from Vasily's head, spraying concrete dust across his face and filling his left ear with a ringing that sounds like church bells in hell. He rolls left on pure instinct, dragging his rifle with him, as a second shot strikes exactly where his head was positioned a heartbeat before. Down! Nikolai is already moving, sliding behind a collapsed concrete beam. Down, down, down! Vasily's heart is hammering, but his hands are steady as he works the rifle bolt and scans for the shooter. The shots came from where? He replays the angle in his mind, the trajectory, the timing. Not from the machine shop window, from above and to the right. The water tower. No, behind the water tower. The ruined apartment block with the exposed stairwell. 420 meters, he says quietly. Northeast. Apartment block, 3rd or 4th floor. He used the window movement as a distractor while he got into position. Thorvald? Nikolai's voice is tight. Or someone just as good. Vasily doesn't move, doesn't expose even a millimeter more of his profile than absolutely necessary. Whoever fired those shots calculated his position from, what? A muzzle flash from yesterday? A pattern in the kills? The angle of disturbed rubble? For the first time since arriving in Stalingrad, Vasily feels genuinely hunted. They remain frozen for 3 hours. Vasily's legs cramp. His bladder screams for relief. He ignores both, maintaining absolute stillness, breathing shallow, eyes never leaving his sector of observation. The German sniper, Thorvald, if that's really who it is, remains equally patient. No additional shots, no movement. The man knows that the first hunter to lose patience dies. Finally, at 13:30 hours, a German artillery barrage begins hammering the Soviet positions 200 meters south. Under cover of the explosions, Vasily and Nikolai withdraw, moving like shadows, never silhouetted, never exposed, taking 20 minutes to cross 30 meters of rubble. That night, in the basement command post, Vasily studies maps and aerial photographs by candlelight. Kulikov joins him, bringing tea that tastes like rust and cigarettes that smell like burning garbage. So you've met him. Someone skilled, yes. Thorvald, Kulikov says it with certainty. The Germans announced it on their radio broadcast tonight. The head of the Reich School of Snipers has arrived in Stalingrad to eliminate the Bolshevik hunter who has been terrorizing German soldiers. They're making it personal, Vasily, a duel. The master versus the peasant. Aryan superiority versus Slavic cunning. Propaganda. Propaganda that will get you killed if you let pride cloud your judgment. This man isn't a 20-year-old conscript fumbling with a rifle. He's been hunting humans longer than you've been hunting anything. He knows every trick you know, and a dozen you haven't learned yet. Kulikov leans forward, and in the candlelight, his scarred face looks ancient. You need to think like him. Where would he position himself? What pattern is he seeing in your kills? Vasily spreads out his log, a tattered notebook where he's recorded every shot, every position, every time of day. 38 kills in 3 weeks. He studies the data, looking for patterns he might have unconsciously created. Most kills between 0600 and 0800 hours. Preferred range, 200 to 400 meters. Tendency to favor positions with multiple exit routes. Preference for elevated hides with clear fields of fire. He'll be watching the obvious positions, Vasily says slowly. The department store ruins, the grain elevator, the factory catwalks. Places where I've killed before. So you change your pattern? No. An idea is forming, dangerous and precise. I give him what he expects, but I make him come to me on my terms. The plan takes 2 days to arrange. Vasily selects a position in the burned-out shell of a school building overlooking the Barricade factory complex. It's a good hide. He's used it twice before, always successfully. From this position, he has clear sight lines to 3 German approach routes. Thorvald will know about this position. He'll expect Vasily to use it again. What Thorvald won't expect is that Vasily won't be there. On the morning of October 10th, Vasily positions a dummy in the school building, a bundle of rags and scrap metal arranged to look like a human torso, topped with a helmet, positioned exactly where a sniper might lie. It's crude, but it doesn't need to be perfect. It just needs to draw attention long enough. Vasily's real position is 40 meters away, in the rubble of a collapsed apartment building, concealed behind a pile of bricks that he's carefully arranged to create a narrow firing aperture. From here, he can watch both the dummy position and the likely counter-sniper positions Thorvald might use. Nikolai is with him, along with Kulikov and 2 other snipers, Chekhov and Ilyich. 5 sets of eyes, 5 rifles, all watching different sectors. The sun rises. The morning patrol begins. Germans move through the ruins in their now cautious manner, and Vasily ignores them. He's not hunting soldiers today. He's hunting a hunter. 0645 hours, nothing. 0720 hours. A glint of light from the water tower, 400 meters northeast. Could be broken glass. Could be a scope lens catching the sun. Water tower, Vasily whispers. 400 meters. Watch it. 0755 hours. Movement in the factory ruins, 300 meters east. A figure, carefully positioned, visible only as a shadow against lighter rubble. Vasily's breathing slows. His finger rests beside the trigger guard, not on it. Not yet. Be patient. Be stone. 8:12 hours. The shot comes from a direction none of them were watching. From the south, from a collapsed grain silo that Vasily had dismissed as too obvious, too exposed. The bullet strikes the dummy's helmet with a sound like a hammer on an anvil, sending it spinning off into the rubble.
For 3 seconds, nothing happens.
Then a figure rises from concealment in the grain silo, field gray uniform clearly visible against the concrete, moving to change position now that the shot has been fired and the location compromised. Vasily has him in the scope, 410 meters, quartering angle, wind from the east at approximately 8 kilometers per hour. He doesn't think about the distance, the wind, the elevation. His body knows these calculations the way his lungs know to breathe. The German sniper is moving quickly, professionally, keeping low. But he's moving, and movement means death in Stalingrad. Vasily exhales halfway. The crosshairs settle on a point 3 feet ahead of the moving target. His finger presses the trigger, smooth and steady. No jerk, no flinch. The Mosin-Nagant roars. The 7.62 millimeter round crosses 410 meters in just over half a second and strikes the German sniper in the upper chest, punching through his tunic and into his lung. The man staggers, drops his rifle, a beautiful Mauser K98K with a Zeiss scope, and collapses behind a pile of bricks. Hit, Nikolai confirms. Center mass, he's down. But Vasily doesn't celebrate. Something feels wrong. The movement was too exposed, too careless for a master sniper. Unless... It's not him, Vasily says. That's not Thorvald. That's a decoy, just like my dummy. Watch for the real shot. The bullet comes 3 seconds later, fired from a completely different position. The apartment block with the exposed stairwell, the same position from which the first attack came. It misses Vasily by inches, striking Ilyich in the shoulder and spinning him around with a scream that echoes across the ruins. Vasily rolls right, bringing his rifle around, but there's no target. Whoever fired has already displaced, melting back into the urban labyrinth. 2 snipers working together, one to draw fire, one to observe and kill. Thorvald used the same trick Vasily just used, but better, with a live decoy willing to die for the shot. Ilyich! Kulikov is already dragging the wounded sniper to cover, pressing a field dressing against the blood pumping from the shattered shoulder. Medic! We need a medic! But Vasily's eyes are still on the apartment block, searching for any sign of movement, any indication of position. There, 4th floor, eastern corner, a shadow that might be a man or might be nothing. The range is nearly 500 meters, at the extreme edge of his rifle's effective accuracy. He settles the crosshairs on the shadow and waits. 1 second, 2, 5, 10. The shadow moves, just slightly, a shifting of weight, but it's enough. Vasily fires on instinct, no time for calculation, just the accumulated experience of 10,000 shots informing his muscles. The shadow jerks and disappears. Did you get him? Nikolai demands. I don't know. Vasily works the bolt, chambers a fresh round, keeps the rifle trained on the position. I don't know. They wait 15 minutes. No additional shots come. Finally, under cover of mortar fire, they withdraw, dragging Ilyich with them. The wounded sniper is delirious with pain, babbling about his mother in Minsk, about apple trees and snow. He dies 2 hours later in the aid station, blood loss and shock overwhelming the overworked medic's efforts to save him. That night, German radio broadcasts claim that Heinz Thorvald has killed the famous Soviet sniper Zaitsev. Soviet radio counters that Zaitsev has killed the German master hunter. Both are lies. The duel continues. For 6 more days, Vasily and Thorvald, if that's truly his name, circle each other through the ruins of Stalingrad like scorpions in a bottle. They fight not with direct confrontation, but through geometry and patience, each trying to predict where the other will be, each setting traps within traps. The German kills 2 more Soviet snipers, young men Vasily trained personally. Vasily kills 3 German spotters and 1 more sniper, though none of them are Thorvald. The psychological warfare intensifies. Vasily finds a playing card, the Jack of Spades, pinned to a wall near one of his former positions. A message. I know where you hunt. He responds by leaving a spent cartridge case at a German observation post inscribed with the number 51, his current kill count. The city continues to devour itself. The Barricadi factory changes hands 3 times in 4 days. The Lazar Works becomes a charnel house where men fight hand-to-hand in darkness, bayonets and sharpened shovels replacing bullets when ammunition runs out. The Volga freezes at its edges, trapping bodies in ice. And still the duel continues. October 16th dawns cold and clear, rare weather for Stalingrad, where smoke usually chokes the sky. Vasily chooses a new position, the wreckage of a foundry where metal pipes create a maze of concealment. Kulikov is spotting for him today. Nikolai is training replacements, teaching them the hard lessons that keep snipers alive. He's getting desperate, Kulikov observes, glassing the German positions. Or you are. One of you needs to end this soon. The longer it goes, the more likely you both die to some random artillery shell or a lucky patrol. Then we end it today. You sound confident. I sound tired. Vasily shifts position slightly, easing a cramp in his left leg.
I'm tired of waiting, tired of thinking 3 moves ahead. I want to go back to simple hunting. See target, shoot target, target dies.
That's not how it works against someone like Thorvald. I know. Vasily's voice is quiet. Which is why today I'm going to make a mistake. A small one. Human. The kind of mistake a sniper makes when he's been in position too long and his concentration slips. Vasily,
Trust me!
At 7:30 hours, Vasily allows his rifle barrel to protrude slightly beyond his concealment, catching the morning sun. It's a minuscule error, visible only to someone watching from a very specific angle with excellent optics. He holds the position for 5 seconds, then withdraws. Nothing happens. At 08:15 hours, he does it again. 3 seconds this time. A man getting careless, fatigued, losing his edge. At 0847 hours, movement. 360 meters away, in the ruins of a water pumping station. A figure in field gray, moving into position with excruciating slowness, choosing an angle that has perfect line of sight to Vasily's exposed position. I see him, Kulikov breathes. Pumping station, 3rd level, behind the collapsed cooling tower. He's setting up for a shot. Vasily doesn't move his rifle, doesn't adjust his position. He waits, counting his heartbeats, until the German sniper is fully committed to his firing position. The man will be looking through his scope now, watching for Vasily's barrel to appear again, finger on trigger, breathing controlled.
One last time, Vasily allows his rifle barrel to catch the light.
The German takes the bait. But Vasily isn't where the German thinks he is. He's 6 feet to the left, concealed behind a different pile of rubble, his rifle already trained on the pumping station. He sees the muzzle flash from the German's rifle at the same instant he fires his own shot. The German's bullet strikes metal pipe with a clang that echoes across the ruins. Vasily's bullet strikes flesh. Through his scope, Vasily watches the German sniper, tall, thin, middle-aged, wearing the insignia of a major, slump forward over his rifle. The man's hand reaches up, touches the wound in his chest, then falls away. His body slides slowly out of sight behind the rubble. You got him, Kulikov confirms. Clean hit, center mass. He's not moving. Vasily doesn't lower his rifle. We verify. They wait 2 hours. The German's body doesn't move. No additional shots come from the pumping station. Finally, Vasily and Kulikov withdraw, and a Soviet patrol moves forward to inspect the position. They return, carrying a Mauser K98K rifle with a Zeiss ZF-42 scope, a German military identification booklet, and a Knight's Cross medal. The identification belongs to SS Obersturmbannführer Heinz Thorwald, director of the Wehrmacht Sniper School at Zosen, holder of the Knight's Cross with oak leaves.
Confirmed kills, 427.
The number makes Vasily feel sick, not triumph, not satisfaction, just a bone-deep weariness and the knowledge that tomorrow there will be another German, another duel, another death. But tonight, the Soviet commissars celebrate. They distribute vodka and make speeches. They promise that Vasily's name will live forever in the annals of Soviet heroism. They take more photographs for the newspapers. Vasily sits apart from the celebration, cleaning his rifle, counting his remaining ammunition. 51 kills. No, 52 now, with Thorwald. The number seems both impossibly large and pathetically small given the scale of carnage in Stalingrad. Kulikov finds him after midnight, bringing a cup of tea and a rare cigarette. You're a hero, Zaitsev. You killed the great German hunter. Morale in the division has tripled. The men believe now that we can win. We can't win, Kulikov. We can only survive. Vasily accepts the cigarette, lights it with a match that shakes slightly in his fingers.
Thorwald was one man. There are 300,000 Germans in Stalingrad. Killing one sniper changes nothing.
It changes everything. Kulikov's voice is firm. You've proven that Soviet man can beat the fascist at his own game. You've given people hope, Vasily. Don't underestimate what that's worth. Maybe he's right. Maybe hope matters. But Vasily knows the truth that the commissars won't admit. Stalingrad will be won or lost, not by snipers, but by the men with grenades and bayonets who fight building to building, floor to floor, room to room. By the artillery crews who starve on the East Bank while shelling German positions. By the infantry who charge across open ground knowing they'll die, but doing it anyway because the alternative is worse. Still, he has his role to play. So he'll play it. He'll continue hunting, continue killing, continue being the hair of Stalingrad until a German bullet or a Soviet commissar's paranoia puts an end to it. The death of Heinz Thorwald should have been an ending. Instead, it becomes a beginning. Within 24 hours, every Soviet soldier in Stalingrad knows the story. Embellished, mythologized, transformed from a desperate ambush into an epic duel worthy of ancient heroes. The commissars work overtime, printing leaflets, broadcasting radio announcements, turning Vasily Zaitsev into something larger than a man with a rifle. He becomes a symbol, an idea, proof that the Soviet fighting man can triumph over technological superiority through courage and cunning. The Germans respond with their own propaganda, claiming Thorwald died from artillery fire, that the duel never happened, that Zaitsev is a fiction created by desperate Bolsheviks. But their soldiers know better. The men in the frontline trenches, The ones who watch their comrades die from invisible bullets, they believe. And belief breeds fear. Vasily feels the weight of it all pressing down like the rubble of a collapsed building. He's 27 years old, exhausted beyond measure, and suddenly responsible for the morale of an entire army. Lieutenant Volkov assigns him 2 permanent spotters, Nikolai and a new man named Shaikin, a former schoolteacher from Leningrad with soft hands and hard eyes. They're ordered to keep Vasily alive at all costs. His death, Volkov explains, would be worse for Soviet morale than losing an entire regiment.
I'm not a hero, Vasily tells Volkov during a brief meeting in the underground command bunker on October 19th. I'm a hunter who got lucky.
You're whatever the Red Army needs you to be, Volkov replies unmoved. And right now, we need you to be a legend. So you'll continue your work, you'll continue killing Germans, and you'll let the commissars tell whatever stories they want. Understood? Yes, Comrade Lieutenant. Good. Because I'm assigning you a new mission. We're launching a coordinated sniper offensive across all sectors. You'll lead a team of 20 snipers, the best we have. Your objective is to make Stalingrad so dangerous for German officers and specialists that they can't function. No more random kills. We're targeting leadership, radio men, artillery spotters, anyone whose death will create maximum disruption. It's not hunting anymore. It's assassination. Industrial-scale psychological warfare. But Vasily nods, accepts the orders, and begins teaching his deadly craft to a new generation of Soviet snipers. The sniper school, if you can call it that, operates from the basement of a half-destroyed apartment complex near the Lazur Works. 20 men and 3 women arrive, ranging in age from 18 to 45. Some have hunting experience, most don't. What they all share is good eyesight, steady nerves, and a burning hatred for the Germans who've destroyed their city. Vasily teaches them everything his grandfather taught him, adapted for the urban nightmare of Stalingrad. Patience, concealment, the art of becoming part of the landscape, how to read wind and distance, how to control breathing and heartbeat, how to choose positions with multiple escape routes, how to think like prey to better hunt predators. The rifle doesn't make you a sniper, he tells them on the first day, holding up his battered Mosin-Nagant. This is just metal and wood. What makes you a sniper is here. He taps his temple. And here. He touches his chest. Your mind calculates. Your heart stays calm. Together, they turn you into death itself.
A young woman named Tanya Chernova, dark-haired, barely 19, with a Ukrainian accent and scars on her hands from factory work, raises her hand. Comrade Zaitsev, how do you deal with it? The killing?
It's the first time anyone has asked him this question directly. Vasily considers lying, offering some patriotic speech about defending the motherland. But these people will be staring through scopes at human faces, watching their bullets tear flesh, hearing screams. They deserve truth. You don't deal with it, he says quietly. You carry it. Every face, every name if you learn it, every moment. It becomes part of you, like scars. The question isn't how to avoid the weight. You can't. The question is whether you're strong enough to carry it and still function. If you're not, tell me now. There's no shame in it. No one leaves. Over the next 3 weeks, Vasily's sniper teams transform the battlefield. They work in pairs, rotating positions constantly, never staying in one location more than a few hours. They target German officers identifiable by their binoculars and maps. They kill artillery observers, recognizable by their radio equipment and position-finding tools. They shoot machine gunners, medics with red crosses on their helmets, even cooks and supply personnel when they present clear shots. It's brutal, methodical work. The Germans respond by instituting new security protocols. Officers remove their rank insignia. Radio operators work from deeper cover. Patrols move faster, more unpredictably. But the fear remains, a constant psychological pressure that wears on German morale like water on stone. Vasily's personal kill count climbs steadily, 70, 90, 100. Each number represents a human being, someone's son, brother, father, husband, reduced to a statistic in a notebook. Sometimes he dreams about them, faces glimpsed through his scope in the instant before the trigger pull. Young faces, old faces, frightened faces, confident faces, all equally dead. On November 2nd, Vasily is positioned in the skeletal remains of the Red October steel plant, overlooking a street the Soviets have nicknamed Concertina Alley because of the coils of barbed wire the Germans have strung across it. Nikolai is spotting. Shakin is covering the retreat route with a submachine gun. The morning is bitter cold, frost turning the rubble white. Vasily's breath comes in small clouds that he has to be careful not to let drift above his concealment. His hands, wrapped in fingerless gloves, ache from the cold. But cold is good. Cold keeps the mind sharp. Cold keeps you alert. Movement, Nikolai whispers. 300 meters, approaching from the west. Looks like a headquarters element. Officers, radio man, 6 guards. Vasily finds them in his scope. 8 Germans moving cautiously through the ruins, but with the confidence of men who control this sector. At the center of the group is an officer, not young, maybe 40, wearing a long coat and carrying a leather map case. A major or lieutenant colonel, judging by the deference the others show him. The officer stops to consult his map, sheltering against a wall while his guards scan the surrounding ruins. 400 meters. Wind negligible. Clear shot, but complicated by the guards. If Vasily fires and misses, they'll all scatter and the opportunity will vanish. He doesn't miss. The bullet crosses 400 meters and strikes the German officer in the head, killing him instantly. Before the body hits the ground, Vasily has worked the bolt and fired again, dropping the radio man. The guards scatter, diving for cover, but one of them, panicked, disoriented, runs directly into Nikolai's sights. "Take him," Vasily says. Nikolai fires his own rifle, dropping the guard with a shot to the chest. 3 Germans down in less than 10 seconds. Then the return fire begins. Machine gun bullets rake their position, chewing through brick and concrete. A mortar round explodes 30 meters away, showering them with debris. "Time to go," Shakin shouts, already moving toward their prepared escape route. A hole knocked through 2 walls that leads to a maze of basement passages. They withdraw under fire, Shakin's submachine gun chattering as he provides covering fire. A German grenade explodes in the room they vacated seconds before, collapsing part of the wall. They keep moving, descending into darkness, navigating by memory through the subterranean labyrinth of Stalingrad's ruins. They emerge 20 minutes later, 3 blocks away, breathing hard but alive. That night, Soviet intelligence reports that the dead officer was Oberstleutnant Friedrich von Hartmann, commander of the 194th Infantry Division's artillery regiment. His death throws German artillery coordination into chaos for 3 days, allowing Soviet forces to advance 2 blocks in the factory district. 3 blocks. Gained at the cost of 200 Soviet lives, but gained nonetheless. The newspapers celebrate Vasily's 100th kill. There are photographs, interviews, even talk of a medal ceremony in Moscow. Vasily refuses to leave Stalingrad. "My place is here," he tells the commissars, "with my men." What he doesn't tell them is that he's afraid. Afraid that if he leaves, even for a day, he'll never have the courage to come back. Afraid that if he stops hunting, stops moving, stops focusing on the next shot, he'll have time to think about what he's become. A killer, a weapon, a man who measures his worth in corpses. But the war doesn't care about his fears. By mid-November, the German 6th Army is exhausted, overstretched, grinding itself to pieces against Soviet resistance that refuses to break. The entire city has become a meat grinder, consuming men and machines with equal hunger. Soviet reinforcements continue crossing the Volga under cover of darkness, replacing losses that would break any normal army. Vasily's sniper teams are part of this larger machine, small cogs in an apparatus of destruction. They kill and kill and kill, and still the Germans come. But now there's something new in the German faces Vasily sees through his scope. Not just fear, but desperation. The realization that they might not win, that they might die here, in this frozen hell, so far from home. On November 19th, the world changes. Soviet forces launch Operation Uranus, a massive counteroffensive north and south of Stalingrad. Within 4 days, the German 6th Army is encircled, trapped in the city they tried to conquer. 300,000 men, cut off from supply and reinforcement, surrounded by Soviet forces that smell victory. The sniper war intensifies. German soldiers, knowing they're trapped, fight with the desperation of cornered animals. Vasily's teams take casualties. Tanya Chernova is wounded by a German counter-sniper, taking a bullet through the shoulder that shatters her collarbone. She survives, evacuated across the Volga, but her war is over. A young sniper named Alexei Gorshkov, one of Vasily's best students, dies when a German patrol overruns his position. He kills 4 of them before they bayonet him to death. Each loss weighs on Vasily like stones in his pockets, pulling him down. December brings snow and cold that turns Stalingrad into a frozen necropolis. Temperatures drop to 20 below zero. Men freeze to death in their positions. Rifles malfunction from the cold. The Volga becomes a highway of ice, but crossing it means exposure to German artillery that has nothing else to shoot at. Vasily continues hunting. 150 kills, 175, 200. The numbers lose meaning. They're just marks in a notebook, proof that he's still alive while so many others are dead. On December 17th, he's positioned in the ruins of the Barricadi factory, watching a German supply depot 300 meters distant. The depot is a desperate affair, a few trucks, some wooden crates, guarded by soldiers who look more like scarecrows than men. They're starving, freezing, dying of typhus and dysentery. The German Sixth Army is cannibalizing itself, burning furniture for warmth, eating horses and rats to survive. Vasily could kill them easily. The guards are careless, exposure dulling their survival instincts. But he watches through his scope and sees not enemies, but men. Men who want to go home. Men who made the mistake of following orders that led them to this frozen hell. He doesn't fire. "Vasily?" Nikolai beside him sounds concerned. "Clear shots. 3 of them." "They're already dead, Nikolai. We just haven't buried them yet." Vasily lowers his rifle. "Let them be." It's a small mercy, meaningless in the scope of a battle that's killed hundreds of thousands. But it's all the mercy Vasily has left to give. By early January 1943, the German Sixth Army is in its death throes. Soviet forces are crushing the pocket from all sides, reclaiming Stalingrad block by bloody block. Vasily's official kill count stands at 242. Unofficially, it's higher. There are kills he couldn't confirm, men who fell in places he couldn't reach to verify. On January 31st, Field Marshal Friedrich Paulus surrenders what's left of his army. 90,000 starving, frostbitten German soldiers march into Soviet captivity. Only 5,000 will ever see home again. The Battle of Stalingrad is over. Vasily Zaitsev stands in the ruins of the Red October plant on the morning of February 2nd, watching Soviet soldiers raise the red flag over buildings that were taken and retaken a dozen times. Around him, the city smolders. 5 months of fighting have reduced Stalingrad to rubble, indistinguishable from the surface of the moon. Of the city's 400,000 pre-war inhabitants, perhaps a few thousand remain, living like rats in cellars and sewers. Nikolai finds him there, brings him tea and news that they're being rotated out, sent to a rest area near Saratov for 2 weeks before reassignment. "We won, Vasily, we actually won." Vasily doesn't answer. Won. The word feels empty. He thinks about the 242 Germans he killed, the Soviet snipers who died under his command, the millions of others, soldiers and civilians, who perished in this place. The price of victory is so high that calling it winning feels like a sick joke. But the war continues. The Germans are retreating, but they're not beaten. There are more battles to fight, more cities to reclaim, more men to kill. Vasily Zaitsev will fight until the war ends or he dies. It's all he knows how to do now. The shepherd boy from the Urals has become something else entirely, a weapon forged in the ruins of Stalingrad, tempered by blood and horror and the weight of 242 deaths that he carries with him like chains. In Moscow, the propaganda machine celebrates him as a hero of the Soviet Union. They make films about him, write books, create a legend that will outlast the man. But Vasily doesn't care about legends. He cares about the men in his sniper teams, about Nikolai and Shaikin and the others who survived. He cares about making it through one more day without losing himself completely. The newspapers claim he defeated the German master sniper Thorvald in an epic duel. They're right, as far as it goes. But what they don't understand, what they can't understand, is that there was no honor in it, no glory. Just 2 killers stalking each other through ruins, and one of them got lucky. Years later, after the war, Vasily will try to return to normal life. He'll work in a factory, try to forget. But Stalingrad never leaves him. The faces in his scope, the sound of bullets striking flesh, the weight of 242 lives. No, more than that. The thousands who died around him, the city that became a grave. He'll tell his story to journalists, to historians, always emphasizing the same points. War is not glorious. Victory is not clean. The rifle doesn't make you powerful. It makes you responsible for every shot, every consequence, every death. He'll speak against those who romanticize combat, who turn killing into heroism without acknowledging the cost. But on this morning in February 1943, as the last shots of the Battle of Stalingrad echo across the ruins, Vasily Zaitsev is simply a tired man with a rifle, standing in the wreckage of a city that died so that others might live. He's 27 years old and ancient beyond measure. He's killed more men than most soldiers will ever see in combat. He survived when so many others died.
And he'll carry that weight for the rest of his life.
The toy rifle that German soldiers mocked, the standard issue Mosin-Nagant that any Soviet infantryman might carry, became in Vasily's hands an instrument of terror and legend. Not because of the rifle itself, but because of the man behind it. A shepherd from the Urals who learned to hunt wolves and used those same skills to hunt men, who turned Stalingrad's ruins into his hunting ground and taught a generation of Soviet snipers how to fight back against an enemy that thought themselves invincible. 242 confirmed kills, each one a story, each one a life ended, each one a burden carried. The newspapers would remember the numbers, the propaganda would remember the heroism, but Vasily Zaitsev would remember the faces. And that, perhaps, is the difference between a legend and a man. As he walks away from the Red October plant for the last time, Vasily doesn't look back at the ruins. Looking back serves no purpose. There's only forward now, more battles, more war, more killing, until finally, someday, it ends. The shepherd boy who became death incarnate continues his march, carrying his rifle, carrying his dead, carrying the weight of Stalingrad on shoulders that will never quite straighten again.